This video will discuss some important terms and concepts needed to study functions from a graphical perspective. Recall that a function is defined as a rule or relation that assigns each element of one set, called the domain, to a unique value in another set, called the range. The x values are the input to the function, and the y values are the output. The x values are also known as the independent values, and the y values are the dependent values. Let's look at some example graphs. Since we don't see endpoints on the graph, we assume the graph continues forever, so the set of inputs is all values on the x-axis. We say the domain of the function is negative infinity to positive infinity. Since the x values continue forever, we can assume that the graph continues down forever. Notice that there's a maximum y value of 8, so the range is minus infinity to 8. Not all graphs are functions. Remember that each element of the domain is assigned to exactly one element of the range. In this graph, each value of x has two values of y. This graph is not a function. Since a vertical line has one value of x for all values of y, we can use a vertical line to test if any value of x has more than one value of y. Observe that a vertical line intersects the graph in two places. In other words, one value of x has two values of y. This graph fails the vertical line test. For this graph, many values of x have two values of y, but all we need is one value of x to have more than one value of y to say a graph's not a function. Here we have a graph that consists of a curve and the point 3, 4. This is not a function because the x value 3 has two outputs, y equals 4 and y equals 1.732. It fails the vertical line test for just one value of x. This graph is a function because x equals 3 is left as a hole on the graph of the curve. The vertical line x equals 3 would only intersect this graph at one point, 3, 4. This passes the vertical line test. This graph is a function because it passes the vertical line test. However, there's another kind of test involving a horizontal line. The horizontal line test tells us if there's a one-to-one correspondence between the x values and the y values. If the graph intersects a horizontal line and at most one point, we say the function is one-to-one. This function is not one-to-one since it fails the horizontal line test. As we can see, a given y value has two different x values, so there's not a one-to-one correspondence. We will discuss one-to-one functions in more depth later when we discuss inverse functions. This graph's a function because it passes the vertical line test. This also passes the horizontal line test, so this is a one-to-one function. As we can see, a given y value has only one x value, so there's a one-to-one correspondence.